I have a few things to go over. First of all, we are up to 123 members. We have one new member, Steve Carmichael. Is he here by any chance? I don't think so.
Okay.
I think I would know if he was here. No. Let's see. Oh, first I'm going to tell you about the sketchbooks before I forget. So Etta Yuri brought some of Janet Tillery's sketchbooks. Now, if you're relatively new, you don't know about Janet Tillery. She was a member for many, many years and maybe a founding member. Yeah, she was a founding member. She passed away 2 years ago and she left us artwork, and we sold some last year at the show, and we will do that again this year. We also have her sketchbooks, and they are pretty amazing. They're over there under that painting, that portrait, on a table. So today, after Marcia gets underway and toward the end, if you want to look through them, if you'd like to purchase one, we are selling them for $20 because we would love for them to go to people who care, you know, people who understand, and I think they're really unbelievably beautiful.
She traveled all over.
Yeah, she traveled the world,
Yeah.
and was very prolific, very prolific. So if you're interested in that, get up and have a look at those when we're meandering around, and feel free to take them back to your seat, pass them around, whatever. We're on the honor system. And if you would like to purchase one, you can see Christy toward the end of the meeting today.
After I've done videoing.
Yes, after she's done.
Because I have to use my phone to take your payment.
Yeah, or check or cash.
Yeah, that works.
Make sure you signed in. We have great door prizes from our local art stores, Forstall and Alabama Art Supply. And we also have some of Janet's drawings, prints, right? Prints as door prizes as well. If you have anything for the May newsletter, please make sure to get it to newsletter at mbaa@gmail.com. I got it. And honeypaintgallery@gmail.com. And those are both, they've been sent to you. It's on the website, so it's easy to do. If you don't remember, just ask me or anybody. I'm going to invite Janet and Sarah to come up and talk a little bit about the show. Janet wants to talk about the inside, and Sarah just has some reminders for us. All right, ladies.
The tables, this one and that one, to go in the back hall. Oh. All right, y'all, we're almost there. Just keep your fingers crossed. Good weather.
Yes.
Remember to bring 3 checks for your taxes. You have to do that, and a lot of people always forget that.
And no cash.
No, we cannot do
cash.
cash. Has to be a check.
3 checks.
3 checks.
3
sets
checks,
of checks.
yes. One for state, one for city, and one for county.
Correct.
We can't take cash?
No.
Yes.
Yes,
you
can
can
take
cash.
Oh, you can't.
Yeah, you can't pay your taxes with cash.
Okay.
That's what we were, that's
It's
what
not
we
the
were saying.
taxes that you're paying, it's the taxes, the retail taxes you've collected. It's not out of your pocket. You're just transferring it to the state, county, and city.
I have paid cash at a couple shows.
Let's
Really?
see. Volunteer, yard signs. Does anybody have a good yard? A prominent, that's why I don't talk in front of people. A prominent yard that a yard sign about the show would show up.
I actually do.
Okay, good.
I do.
Or
Yeah.
relatives,
I have a lot of
anybody's.
I've got the yard signs in
yeah,
my car. I'm
lot of
gonna go
traffic.
out and get them, and I will bring them in here and just grab one. And I'll bring that. Hey, y'all. Okay, so that's good. I'll bring them all. Does anybody that is not in the show want to volunteer for the morning shift from, say, 8:30 to 1 and help us out? Is anybody available for that? All right, and I'll still be calling people.
And that also volunteers get to hang a painting to sell.
Yeah.
as
And you
our
can
thank you.
participate in the floral competition as well.
And they're eligible for prizes. We've had people, volunteers, win
Yeah.
prizes
Yep,
Okay,
recently.
okay, good. All right, I'll call you. Okay, good, thanks. And Janet is, my person in charge of the inside artists, and that's usually kind of the hardest part, cause there's so many moving parts to setting up in here and all the different rooms, so I'm gonna let her talk, anything that she needs from y'all or to tell you.
Yeah, we're going to start setting up Thursday morning, and we'll almost expect everybody who's gonna be on the inside to be here to help out. And you can bring your paintings, set them aside in the corner, and you can hang that day, so you don't even have to come back Friday. Or you can come back with more on Friday, depending. We have, as a club, collected through many years of holiday shows, felt. And I can't promise felt to line your screens, because we don't want bare screens. We've got black felt and white felt. And if you need a different color, you need to go to, actually, I think Joann's now, and not Hobby Lobby.
Joanne's closed.
Yeah, Hobby
Yeah.
Lobby's the only place.
Hobby Lobby's the
The
only
only
place.
Joann's
Everything
closed.
everything at Joann's is
Well, I thought they were still
30 to
having
70%.
it.
Hobby Lobby still has
So
fabric.
it's still there, so, and
Yeah.
felt comes in 72 inches wide, so you only need a couple yards to cover your spot.
Yeah, and I have some I'm gonna bring
Okay,
for people to use.
so we have, I think from what I can tell, almost enough to handle everybody. Yeah, there's a lot, it's a heavy box, 2 heavy boxes. So, that's the main thing. And, you aren't necessarily going to be on the screens that you've loaned. We'll put them up, and if you're here and can grab your screens and put them in the spot where you want them, that's fine, but we can't guarantee they're gonna go in your
Right,
spot.
because they have to be attached to one another, and they're just configurations that have to
Exactly.
happen, and you might not be in that spot where your screens are.
And if you look around at the lighting in here, especially if it's
Yeah.
a dark day, we've got these down, it could be very dark in this room, very dark. And you can't tell until you're here and you hang up a painting and you're on the back side and
That's
it's
right.
dark. Plus we had the lights go
Yeah,
out one
because the
time.
screens
we
actually
did.
block the windows.
Yes,
in
yes.
here.
Right.
So we, most of the ones on the perimeter of the room, the tent sites, booth sites on the perimeter of the room have electrical outlets. And I suggest, if you don't already have them, they're called tent lights or shop lights. They're a little, I should have brought one, they're little conical metal
Clip-on.
clip-ons.
Clamp.
And you put the bulb inside there, and you can adjust them, you can angle them, and they're cheap if you go to Home Depot. And might clear them out, so make sure you get them in plenty of time.
You can also get battery-powered ones on Amazon.
The problem with that, and that's what I wanted to say, a lot of people will get them on Amazon, oh, I've got these pretty little book lights and music lights. Unless they say the lumens are a certain amount,
Yeah,
I've seen them, they light up
don't.
about this much.
right.
And we really
be
need you to
careful.
buy LED bulbs, not regular incandescent bulbs, because we don't wanna pop a breaker. I don't know what we do, we pop a breaker in the middle of the show. That's a problem, we did that one time. So LED bulbs, I would suggest at least 60 watt and soft light or daylight, not bright light, not daylight. Daylight's kind of bluish purple,
Yeah,
we don't
it's
want that.
very
So
white.
stay with the regulars, but LED lights, and I would think at least 2 per booth. So you can angle them down and kind of flood the screens. But if you don't have those lights, you will regret it, because they really make a difference on how your artwork looks inside. And we'll try and light the back hall. The back hall is especially dark once they
It's
once
really
they
dark.
close the offices, it is
Yep.
dark back there. So, any questions for inside? If you haven't done it, yes.
Could there be space behind the panels for extra
No,
stuff?
no, you have to put it back here,
Or there would be space back there?
but not a lot, because you're sharing it with 30 other artists. And that's another place where you can go to sit and eat too.
Yes,
There's all
right.
the chairs back there.
Yeah, the screens will be in
They'll be-
front of
they'll be
that, so
covered.
you,
Yeah, it's covered.
nobody will see you back there.
Yeah, so you can go back there to eat quickly
Yeah.
and then get back and ask your neighbor to watch your screens for a
Is
while.
that room always open, that
Kitchen?
the kitchen.
Yeah,
There's a little kitchenette for ice and water
Right.
right there. And you can go through there. Through that door is, depending on where you're located, through that door is the, what do they call it, the board, I call it
the
the
boardroom, yeah,
And there are 4 to 6.
conference room or whatever.
Yeah, there's 4 to 6 people in there. They have plenty of light, but you never. Howdy days, pre-storm days can really make a problem for you.
And does everybody, oh, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, I'm done.
Does everybody know that they need to be here early on show morning? Because you've got to get your tent open and your space ready and pick up your artist packet and
And the judging will start.
Get your name
Before the
taken.
show starts.
Judging is starting
and the
at,
judging, well, she'll really get started at 8:30.
yeah, she'll be looking around at 8:30, and if she misses you, when she starts making a decision, you might have lost your chance to get it.
And any new artists, y'all just call me. If you have any question, the form that I put on the internet for everybody to read has everything in it, but still, you can call me.
To read, just read,
Just
read,
read
read.
it, just read it.
They don't read. I
Always
don't.
helps to read, doesn't it?
We know by the questions that we get that you don't always read. For years of knowledge.
Any other questions?
Okay.
Have a good show.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. How many of you have filled in your profile page on the website? Raise your hand. Wow! Seriously? Well, see, all of the ones I don't need to be talking to.
Preaching to the
I'm
choir.
preaching to the choir. Okay, well, if you have friend artists who haven't done that, give them a nudge. We want those profiles filled in. Also, lunches.
Oh, lunches.
Don't go hungry on show day. Go ahead to the website. You should have gotten an email about it. I also posted it in the MBAA members on Facebook. But when you need to go to the website, fill in the form for your lunch, pick your selection, and then click to the next page and click the button and click through and pay. Okay? So if you don't pay, you don't get a lunch, even if you fill out the form. So, yes.
To let everybody know, if you're saying, well, I'm just gonna get something nearby, because we're surrounded by restaurants and cafes here. But on show day,
Yeah.
they are lined
It's
up.
nightmare.
We once had a band here that waited for 40 minutes
Yeah.
to get food. They would disappeared on us in the middle of the day.
Yeah, you really do. It's such a convenience for you as an artist, if you're showing, to not have the headache of calling a friend to get you some lunch or whatever. Just go ahead and, if either of the 3 selections are good with you. I know everybody can't always eat all those things, but if that's good, go ahead and do that. If you have a friend who's coming to your booth to help you out and you want to get a lunch for them, that's fine. Order them, but you have to fill out a separate form for them and pay separately. So just please do it. Any questions? Good. Yay.
Thank you. Let's see if there's anything else I need to say. I said about the newsletter. Oh, Facebook, don't forget, we have a Facebook page for members. And if you
Yes.
go on it now, you'll see a picture of Ron Lewis about 30 or 40 years ago. It's really great. He was in Village Living, so I hope y'all have all seen the article in Village Living about the show. And then evidently there was one about Ron, which I didn't see, but I saw it on Facebook. And also, congratulations to Michael Davis. One of Michael's paintings was chosen to be on the cover of a book, and it's beautiful. It's called Moonstruck. I love the title. I talked about edit. Have I talked about editing
Yeah.
sketchbooks? Okay, yes I did. I can't remember everything. I think that's it. So I'm going to invite Madison to come and introduce our guest artist.
Good morning. I'm so excited about this. I have not known Marcia very long, but I kind of feel like I do or have.
Talk loud.
Talk loud? Okay.
Wow.
Get what you asked for. Marcia is absolutely wonderful. She paints in a wide variety of medium, acrylic, oil, watercolor, mixed media. I was a student at the Sarah Carlisle Towery Art Colony at Lake Martin for 10 years, I think. Studied under people as Hugh Williams, Nan Cunningham, and is just one of the sweetest people I've ever met in my life. Her work has just got kind of boundless joy, and is just so wonderful. So I'm going to let Marcia get at it. So.
Well, I really thank you for letting me come, and thank Madison for asking me. I did a watercolor demo about a year ago at night, and today I was going to do something totally different. It's kind of a mixed media that I do a lot, where I use sometimes watercolor, but sometimes acrylic. And I don't know if you're like me, but I do, when I'm doing my commissions, I tend to get real tight when I'm working on them. I've worked really hard over the years to try to develop more of an impressionistic, loose way of painting. And when I'm doing a commission, I have kind of a love-hate relationship. You know, I love it when I deliver it and the person says, "Oh my goodness, this is exactly what I wanted." But I hate them while I'm doing them because I start getting tighter and tighter. And I'm going backwards instead of forwards. And you might have felt some of that when you're painting for this show, you know, because your mind starts saying all these things to you like, what does the person want? What are my buyers going to buy? And my little 2.5-year-old student, my granddaughter Murphy, has really helped me in this way. When she and I paint together, she is all over the place, and she paints with her hands. She paints with the brush, both ends of it, and she just paints with total joy and abandonment. And recently, I just put out a white piece of cloth on my kitchen table, and I let her paint. It was the one day she let me choose the colors, and she just painted all over it. Then I cut that out and made it into birds. And so this is her artwork, and she was so proud of it. But what it did was, it's a reminder to me of getting back to that joy that that was the reason why I started painting to begin with. And sometimes I lose that. So I brought some examples. These are just pictures that paintings that I did, and you can see, sorry, you can see that there's a lot of paper in them. This is a watercolor that has some paper in it and different little markings. This one is on my porch, on my screened-in porch, and you know, a lot of times when you're just painting more intuitively and using, I'll use a wedge sometime and just move the paint around. This one I posted on my Facebook page, and someone wrote to me and said, "Oh, what drew me in was the cross." And I said, "Oh yeah, the cross. I didn't know that was the cross." But evidently when I was using that wedge, I made a cross there. And then someone else said, "How on earth did you ever paint that vase?" And I did. I just got some paper up there. But that's what I wanted to do today was, and I want to show you one more. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
This one I wanted to show you because this was actually, I painted on paper and then mounted it on a canvas. But what I did was, years ago, this was 2017, and before I knew anything about cold wax, which is wonderful, and I used it a lot of times on top of my watercolors, and it creates like a matte kind of finish on your painting that I love. Well, this was way before I knew anything about cold wax, and I just put this paper on the canvas, and then I put just wax on it, you know, like furniture finishing wax, and it creates this kind of smooth matte finish that I really love on it. And the reason I brought this was to show you that I did it in 2017. It has not yellowed. Yeah, so,
And you varnish over the wax, or?
I didn't varnish over it. I just sprayed it with a fixative after I painted it, and then I put the wax on there, and then I buff it, and I put about 2 or 3 coats on it. But you can pass it around and see, it just makes a kind of a nice.
Paint over it as well?
I don't think you can paint over it because it's kind of slick. I'm not sure, but I don't think you can.
What did you, how'd you get the paper on the canvas? What'd you do?
I use either Mod Podge or if it's a thicker paper, I'll use a medium, what's that called? Matte medium. And then I will, if I'm doing it at night, you know, I'll put a piece of masonite board on top of it, and then all of those art books that I have that I've never really read goes on top of that, and it really, they are useful. You know, you can use them to flatten out your painting.
So funny.
So what I wanted to do was I'm just gonna, and when you're
Oh, I wonder the way that
videoing, do
feels.
not take a video of my palette.
Oh, come on.
One of the classes I went to that Madison was talking about, there was this wonderful art teacher, and she was very strict on the way you set your palette, which is really great, you know, warm colors over here and cool colors over here. And she said, Marcia, would you show them your palette? And I was like, yeah. So I showed her my palette, and she said, and this is what you don't want your palette. I just kind of put my colors wherever I want to. But what I did was, this is a wooden canvas, you know, and the reason why I'll do a lot of that for mixed media is because it's a little bit easier to get the paper to stick to it because it's hard, and when you mash it down, it'll stick on there. And then I put about 2 coats of gesso on it. And I don't worry about if it's smooth or not. I just put the gesso on there, like some of the lines of the brush show through to kind of create some texture. And then I painted it with house paint. You know, those little samples that you can get from Home Depot and all that. I painted with house paint because it gives like a matte, flat finish, and the acrylic sticks on there really well. And this is really funny. I do go to Home Depot a lot. The other day I was there and I heard this man asking for a light, and I said, I think you want a dust to dawn halogen, and it's right over there. And he said, oh, you work here? And I said, no, I just hang out here. But there's a lot of fun things you can get at, you know, hardware stores that you can use. So what I did was I came up with a picture. I wanted to do a fish, so I just found a picture of this fish that I thought would fit on here. And I kind of drew it out so I have an idea of how I wanted to draw it. And then I drew it on here with a piece of charcoal. And I didn't really, I think this is an angelfish or a goldfish or something. I really didn't want it to look like that. He's my fish, I can make it any color I want to. So I found this picture of a real fish, and I liked his colors. Now, sometimes I have a hard time deciding what colors I want to use, what kind of palette I want to use. So if you use Procreate, you can actually pull a photo in there and say, create palette, and it'll take all these colors and create that palette just like that. There are other apps that you can get that'll create a palette, but sometimes that helps me because when I look at a photo, I think, oh, there's green. But actually, it's like 3 or 4 shades of green. And so if you look at that palette, it'll draw those out for you. So that's something I do sometimes. But I'll just stick him up here since I didn't bring my palette. And then what I do next is, I kind of come up with some colors that I want in there, and I will use these wonderful different papers that, what are these called? Andy, is Andy still here? They're called, I don't know what they're called, but they have these big sheets of colorful paper there, graphic paper. And I'll get those and I like to tear it. And I don't worry about if it fits exactly into the shape because I'm gonna come back and put the background in and cut into that fish. So the first thing I do is probably the most, I don't know, detailed part of this fish is gonna be his eye. And so I'll spend more time on his eye than anything else. And I'll try to, I see that there's some lighter color in his eye. I'm going to put that in first because every time, I know people have taken a class with me, and I want to tell you, when some of you are in my class, it's such an honor. It's really an honor. But I know that if Hannah was here, she would say that she remembers. I always say, just put it in and leave it. Just leave it. And I'm talking to myself as well. Because every time you go back and touch that color, you're going to gray it down just a little bit. So what I try to do is start out with the lightest color, and I just put it in and try to leave it. And I don't fiddle with it too much, because if I do that, then I'm going to lose that spontaneous stroke that I made. So I try to do the lightest color first before I put that black pupil in, because I don't want to contaminate it. And I'll try to remind myself, don't go back and fiddle with it. Oh, there you go.
Marcia, what type of paint are you using? What do you do?
This is acrylic.
Acrylic, okay.
Acrylic paint, and this is house paint. It's you know those little samples. I'm not sure exactly what it's called, but house paint. So I've got his eye. I might want to work on his mouth a little bit because that's something we want to kind of look like a mouth.
Marcia, is that painting of the little girl that's going around, is that your granddaughter?
No. Oh, thank you. No, she's much cuter than that.
That's so funny.
She's a great little person to paint with because she's very free. Now, last week I was getting the colors together for her to paint, and I was going downstairs to get them, and I said, so what colors do you want? I mean, she has a very limited vocabulary. And she said, red, blue, yellow. And I said, okay, so I'm going downstairs, and she said, green. She's very specific. Okay, we're gonna let that be his mouth for right now. And so I try to just put it down and leave it. Don't go back and touch it. And then I want to think about, okay, I like that green stuff there, so I'm going to put some of that. I know nothing about fish, so I have to go by this picture. And I went ahead and mixed up some of these colors so that I could just save some time. And let's see, just got a little bit right there. And, you know, like I said, I will think about, I like doing things that are different. I like experimenting with different things. So last week I was trying to do some stencils. it didn't turn out anything like what I had in my mind, but I thought it was gonna be a great thing. But I did like the way it turned out, so I'm gonna use part of this as part of my paper. So I'll just take this and tear off a little bit where I want it. And what I'm doing is, I'm just playing.
That's exactly what I was thinking. You're just
Yeah.
having fun.
I'm just having fun, and so I'm getting back into that creative spirit that I had as a kid, and I don't really care if anybody likes it or not. I'm just playing. But what I have found is when I paint like this and just play and do something just for me, then that spirit of joy goes into my other paintings. Does that make sense? I find that I'm freer. I find that I'm more intuitive when I'm painting something else, because I've just given myself the freedom to play one day, just to have fun. Now, sometimes if y'all use a Stay Wet palette like this, it has a sponge underneath. Are you familiar with those? Sometimes I'll get through with the painting and that palette looks better than the painting itself. And so I will save that, and you can wash it and let it dry. Sometimes if I have a little bitty gill, I'll even wrap it, use this as wrapping paper. Sometimes I'll just tear this and use that as some of the paper on my painting, which is what I'm going to do today. This is
Marcia, what are you using to put that on?
This is Mod Podge. It's just like a glue. But if it's a thicker paper, I'll use it's called matte medium, and I don't know, I just think that works better sometimes when it's a little bit thicker paper. And then I have this little brayer, that little round thing. You're familiar with that? And that's just to help. So I kind of tore these out, but I don't really care if it's going to be exact, like I said, or not, because I'm going to paint around this fish. But I just want him to.
Yeah, I love that.
And I have no idea what he's going to look like afterwards.
Do you have a way that you organize your collage papers?
No. I'm not organized at all. In fact, I like doing new things, and I like experimenting all the time. And sometimes I'll go into my little studio and open the closet and say, oh my goodness, I have watercolor pastels. I didn't know I had them. I just bought them one day because Andy was there and said, look at these. And that's really fun, and the older you get, the more that happens.
I need an inheritance.
You don't brush the Mod Podge over the top of the paper?
Sometimes I do, but sometimes I don't. I'm gonna just kind of get, I'm just kind of lay down some stuff right now, and then I'll go back and smooth it a little bit.
Are those two pieces you put on, are those the tail of the fish or the back?
That's gonna be the tail, believe it or not. Oh, that's the idea I have in my mind.
Play with my fingers.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Actually, it's
But have y'all ever done this? Just allow yourself a day to play? No? One time I painted, this, what was it? It was a floral arrangement. And I was painting like this, I thought, I'm just gonna paint today just for myself, not for anybody else. I'm just gonna have fun doing it and enjoy painting. And after I got through with it, I hung it up on the wall and stepped back and thought, okay, that is really ugly. And it didn't work. And so I left it there, and the next day or so, I was painting something else and looked at it, and I knew exactly what I needed to do.
Oh, yeah.
And I went back in and put in a different background, and it was so good. I couldn't believe it. And I put it on my Facebook page, and someone said, and I told the story, and someone said, I want that painting. And she said, but I wished I had seen it before you did it, and then afterwards. She said, because it reminds me of myself, that I wasn't what I wanted to be, and now I am. And I thought, you never know what someone else is going to see in your painting. So let's just kind of finish his tail a little bit. Might put a little bit of color in there. And if you're real specific, you might want to cut your paper, but then that kind of defeats the purpose a little bit. If I was at home, I would take this off and put it on the table. And I love this tissue paper because when you put, and I may have to wait till this dries a little bit more, but actually it dries pretty fast. I love this tissue paper, using it because when you put it on there, the tissue goes away and just the dots are left. So I like that. And when I'm just playing around and having fun, sometimes things turn out better than if I planned it. I used to always ask my husband, what do you think of this painting? And my husband's colorblind, so that was a dumb thing for me to do anyway. But I would ask him, what do you think of this painting? And sometimes he would say, well, did you mean for her hair to be that color? I'll never ask him anymore.
I had a friend who she would ask her husband, if she liked stuff, and one day he goes, well, Corinne, not your best work. And so now my friends and I would always go, not your best work, Candy.
Well, he would also ask me after his sermon, well, what did you think? And, so one day he asked me, he said, well, what do you think about that? And I said, well, I only have 2 words. And he said, 2 words? Marcia, you never have just 2 words. I said, burn it. He doesn't ask me anymore. He was a Methodist district superintendent for a lot of years, and we got this new bishop, and the bishop said, I've been asking about the district superintendent's wives, and he said, this one's wife is a teacher, this one's wife does this one's wife does that, and he said, when they got to your wife, they said, well, she's kind of a free spirit. My husband said, you know, it's probably best that you know that on the front end. I think I strengthened his prayer life. Okay, so I like it already. I don't know what color I want to make that. Oh. I like this.
So while you're playing, are you consciously thinking about how much will be paint and how much will be paper, or you just, whatever you're feeling at the time?
Yeah, I'm just playing, thinking, do I like that piece of paper or not?
So you're not thinking, oh, I like this paper, but I need to put this color over it?
Well, no, I don't guess I'm smart enough to do that. I might just put it up there and see if I like it, and then if I do, I'll keep it,
Paint over it.
and if I don't, I'll paint over it.
Or put another piece of paper over it.
Yeah.
So you just go into the zone.
I just go into the zone. Now, I do have kind of an idea of what colors I like, because, you know, I like that fish. See, I like that little orange piece, that's why I put that little orange piece there. So, there's a couple little things that I like. Bother me, that's not pushing down good.
Can I help?
What I'll do is take it down. You know, I think I told y'all this the last time, and I have this on my table here. I use puppy pee pads all the time. Max has been a big helper in my painting process as well. And I use his pee pads to protect my work surface, and also when I'm painting in watercolor, you know, these are absorbent just enough that you can just touch your brush to them and it'll take enough water out that then you can paint with your watercolors. So, if y'all don't use pee pads, that's your trick of the day.
Are you not putting Mod Podge on top of the paper because you're gonna paint on
Not
top
right
of it?
now. I'm trying to wait till it dries just a little bit, and then I'll come back and put some on it. Because I may want to paint on top of that.
Can you paint on top of my collage?
I'm not sure.
No, you can't.
And that wedge, I was talking about this, you know, sometimes it'll just make it, you can do anything with that. Kind of moving the paint around, creates a little bit more texture.
Marcia, you intentionally letting some of the greenhouse paint show through?
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
And when I'm putting on the background, sometimes I'll let some of that show through too. And now sometimes I didn't bring it with him, but sometimes after I finish painting it, I'll take a liner brush with some Indian ink and just kind of do a real loose. I think I did it on that one, you can see. Yeah. Just to make it a little bit looser.
That edge, is that a silicone or rubber material?
This is,
Ceramic?
gosh, I don't know what is this, Andy? I'll wedge my hand. It's made out of, it's kind of rubbery.
Okay, so it's flexible.
Uh-huh, yeah.
Okay.
And, you know, a lot of times when you're using something like this, then you'll come up with textures or strokes that you would have never come up with on your own. And I think that's why I love watercolor, because it's the same kind of thing, you know, you'll come up with, the watercolor will do things that you never thought it would do, or that I would never think about doing.
You said you went over that with India ink?
Yes, with fine line, you know, with those little skinny brushes, and I just kind of free, you know, not, I wasn't like this.
That would be very carefully.
One time I was at the art colony and I was sitting next to Jim Denny. I don't know if you know him or not, but he does these wonderful, I think they're watercolors. He does like fish to where he actually, no, he does, well, I think he does fish, but he does birds, and you can almost see every feather. I mean, he uses these very small brushes, and we were taking a class from this teacher who was real loose, and he kept saying, I just can't do this. You know, I just cannot do this. And I said, Jim, if you can paint the way you can paint, so realistic, why would you want to do this? And he said, you're right. And he packed up and left. And then I felt really bad. But you know, that is the truth. People who can paint really realistic.
Drove him
May
away.
not like, you know, painting loose. I kind of make a mess too. But you'll find that when you're doing this and you just, you know, if one thing doesn't work, try something else. It's just fun. You're just playing. The art colony, they no longer have that, which is really sad. I think last year was its last year. The lady that you're gonna have at your next demo, I met her there, Barbara Davis. We painted there together. And it was just a great thing. It's at Lake Martin, so it's a beautiful setting, and you stayed there for a week, and they brought in all these great artists. And you would study with them for a week. So, and you know, in any class, you learn as much from the people you're with as the artists sometimes. Peggy Cole Roberts and Wayne.
I did an online class with her.
She was in there, and let's see, here was, there's a lady that I know y'all would know, but Julie Hutchison. Just a lot of great artists were there, and so you learned a little bit every time from one of them different. But they did it for years, and then this is funny. One year, they would always choose, like, you could bring a painting, and then they would choose it, because it's right there at Children's Harbor. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but they have a
Beautiful setting.
camp for children with special needs during the summer, but in order to raise money, they would have this Christmas card every year, and so you could bring a painting, and you could they may choose that to be the Christmas card. And so one year, this was in my trying to get looser time, I decided to paint this thing with my left hand. I'm right-handed. So you can imagine what it looked like. It was just a little abstract looking Christmas tree and little gifts around it. And so anyway, I left and went home, and they called me back and said, Marcia, get up here. They've chosen your painting to be the Christmas card for next year. And I was like, oh my goodness, maybe I should put it in my left hand. I couldn't believe it, but
I have never tried
You know, that might be a great exercise to get looser. I never could.
yes.
I'm one of those people who can't do it either.
And another thing that Madison told me I should share this was that one of those things I went to, and Frito Grit, is that his name? Was the painter. He was the teacher. And at the end, you know, I love going because I love honest feedback. It doesn't help if your teacher says, oh, that's so good. You know, what does that mean? I mean, I want somebody to tell me, hey, you really need to do this or you need to do that. And so when I was with him, at the end of the class, he went around to everybody and gave constructive criticism, and he did not mince any words, which I was really glad of that. But when he got to me, he said, and you? He said, your painting was completed 2 hours before you were.
Oh.
And so I always remembered that. You know, if you keep on messing with it, you lose those spontaneous strokes and that clean, pure color. And many times you lose the best part of your painting. And so that's in my mind a lot. And,
Step away from the easel.
yes, step away, move back. And, I taught my kids, now, okay, now this may not work, it might, but this is the complement of that green, and I'm going to make just a pink background. Because he's my fish. I can do it.
And all water should be pink, right?
All water should be pink, and I might leave a little bit of that. Oh, I don't want to leave any pink on this carpet down here.
Is that house paint?
This is house paint.
Is it little hair rather than cut? Because who wants to cut? Is the house paint, is it flat finish? Or
Yes,
eggshell?
I have found that sometimes they don't have, they only have it in flat, or, you know, some, I don't know if it's some colors or if it's some kind of paint, but like sometimes I'll say, I want the flattest that you have, and he'll say, okay, in this, we have flats. But you see what I mean when I say I'm cutting back in on that, because I'm just kind of shaping it as I go.
That is my fish with attitude.
Yes.
Yeah.
When was it you started using house paint?
I'm sorry, what?
How is it that you started using house paint?
I'm sure I read that somewhere. It wasn't an original thought. I think what it was, we used to go to the beach every year for like a month. We'd stay down there and I would just paint. And I couldn't find some of the paint colors that I wanted. And we were at, of course, Home Depot. And I thought, oh my goodness, look at all those colors over there. And so I asked him, I said, could you mix me up a few of these? And he did, and I tried them, and I thought, I like that.
Marcia, is it acrylic house paint?
Yes,
Latex?
it's acrylic, it's water-based.
That easel was just not cooperating with you.
Not quite. probably needs a second coat on his pink lake because some of the green is showing through. And then you can also use this. And it'll move the paint. But I like different textures and different things that I would have never done. And then, let me show you what you can do. You can take, it may be too wet to do this. Probably is, but you can take this jar or anything round. We're gonna make a bubble. Sometimes if I get and then there's a bubble. So probably I would put some more pink on him just because too much of that green is showing through. But so I have that pink on there and I don't like it, I can just paint over it, you know. Or I can come back in here and paint on top of this if I wanted to add those stripes or whatever. This is just acrylic paint on my brush.
It's kind of green, kind of greenish brown.
Yes, it is. It's green. It's my favorite green. It's black and yellow mixed together. So that's him. Do y'all have any questions? But do it, try it. Go home and just give yourself the freedom to say, today I'm just gonna paint for me. Just gonna have fun and just play and get back to that, get back to that creative, childlike spirit. And then you'll and you know, if you paint, you don't have that idea in your mind of, is somebody gonna buy this, or, you know, I'm just painting for myself, I don't care. This is funny, the last one I painted like this, I took to a pour stall because I was going to teach a class in mixed media, and then I advertised it on my Facebook page, and somebody wrote to me and said, can I buy that? And I'm like, sure. And I told Andy, I said, I have to bring you another painting. So you never know. Somebody will write.